Metro 2033 by Dmitry Glukhovsky. Shadows of the Metro. Artyom's breath fogged in the chill air of the Moscow Metro, a stark contrast to the warmth of life that still thrived within the station's confines. As he patrolled the dimly lit corridor with Pyotr and Andrei, the oppressive silence was a constant reminder of the desolation that lay beyond the station's makeshift fortifications. Plastic sheeting and scrap metal doors that quivered with each gust of wind from the tunnels, a fragile shield against the chaos outside. "Did you hear that?" Pyotr whispered, his voice barely audible over the distant hum of the generators. "It's just the wind," Andrei replied, though his hand tightened around the stock of his rifle. Artyom wasn't convinced. He'd heard the stories of the Black Ones, the nightmarish entities that haunted the Metro's darkest recesses, their presence marked by a chilling absence of sound and a sense of dread that clung to the shadows. Suddenly, a shadow detached itself from the darkness ahead. It was a figure, tall and gaunt, with eyes that seemed to swallow the light. Artyom's heart raced, but he couldn't bring himself to raise his weapon. "Don't shoot," a voice called out from behind the figure. It was Hunter, known as Der Jäger, the station's most revered defender. His reputation preceded him, a seasoned warrior who had faced the horrors of the Metro head-on, a beacon of hope in these dark times. The figure stepped into the light, revealing a face that was all too human. It was a man, one of their own, driven mad by the horrors of the Metro. "We need to stick together," Hunter said, addressing the guards. "The real enemy isn't each other. It's out there in the darkness." A murmur of agreement passed among the guards, but Pyotr couldn't help but voice his concern. "But what of the Red Line? Their ideology threatens to tear us apart from within." Hunter's gaze met Pyotr's. "Then we fight that battle too, but we do it united, as one." The guards exchanged glances, the tension easing from their shoulders. In that moment, they understood the true meaning of camaraderie. It wasn't just about surviving. It was about preserving what made them human. As they continued their patrol, Artyom felt a change in the air. The stations were uniting against the Red Line's oppressive ideology, and a fragile peace was taking hold. It was a peace born of bloodshed and sacrifice, but it was peace nonetheless. Artyom knew that the real test was still to come. The Black Ones were out there and he would have to face them. But for now, he took comfort in the solidarity of his comrades, the flickering lights of the Metro guiding their way, and the soft echo of their footsteps a testament to their shared resolve. The Forbidden Expedition. Artyom's heart pounded as he and his friends stood before the rusted door that led to the forbidden zones of the Moscow Metro. The air was thick with the musty scent of decay, and the only light came from their flickering torches. "Are you sure about this, Artyom?" whispered Pyotr, his voice barely audible over the distant echoes of dripping water. Artyom nodded, though his stomach churned with unease. "We have to know what's out there, beyond the boundaries our parents set for us," he said, more to convince himself than his friends. With a creak that seemed to groan through the entire tunnel, the door swung open, revealing a darkness that swallowed their lights. They stepped through, the door closing behind them with a finality that made Artyom's skin crawl. The tunnels ahead were different, eerily silent and untouched by the usual bustle of the Metro's inhabitants. Artyom led the way, his curiosity now a living thing within him, urging him forward despite the fear that clawed at his insides. They came upon the roll trap, a relic from a time before the world had been engulfed in nuclear fire, and it stood as a silent testament to the curiosity that now gripped them all. "Let's go up," said Andrei, his eyes wide with the thrill of the unknown. "But the stories," Pyotr began, but Artyom cut him off. "The stories are meant to keep us safe, but they also keep us trapped. We won't learn anything if we don't explore." One by one, they ascended the escalator. the mechanical groans and the clatter of their footsteps the only sounds in the oppressive silence. At the top they found themselves in the ruins of what was once a grand botanical garden. Nature had reclaimed the space, but amidst the overgrowth, Artyom could see the faint outline of pathways. They explored, hearts racing with each new discovery. It was Andrei who first sensed the presence, a feeling of being watched that seemed to come from the shadows themselves. "What was that?" he gasped, spinning around. Artyom strained his senses, and there it was again. A feeling, an awareness, something not quite human. Fear gripped him, but it was a fear mixed with an intense desire to understand. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice steady despite the tremors he felt. There was no answer, only the sensation growing stronger, surrounding them. Then from the shadows emerged figures, tall, dark, and indistinct. The Black Ones. Artyom's breath caught in his throat. These were the creatures of legend, the ones his stepfather had warned him about. But here they were, observing, their presence both terrifying and mesmerizing. "Why are you here?" one of the Black Ones asked, its voice a melodic hum that resonated in Artyom's mind. "We wanted to see, to learn," Artyom replied, his voice barely a whisper. The Black One tilted its head, considering. Curiosity is a powerful force. It can lead to salvation or destruction. We watch, we learn. We do not interfere unless the balance is threatened. Artyom felt the weight of those words, understanding that their expedition had consequences far beyond their own thrill-seeking. It was a lesson he would carry with him as they retreated back to the safety of the metro, the Black One's words echoing in their minds. As they returned, Artyom knew that nothing would be the same. They had touched the unknown, and in doing so they had changed. The forbidden expedition was over, but its impact would ripple through their lives forever. Caravan to Rishskaya. In the dimly lit corridors of the botanical garden, Artyom stumbled upon an ancient, ornate chest half buried under a collapsed beam. The chest was adorned with symbols that spoke of a civilization long forgotten, a society that had perhaps thrived before the world turned to ash. Inside, he found a peculiar device, its purpose and origin, a mystery that beckoned further exploration. Meanwhile, the ideological rifts between the metro stations deepened. A covert meeting between Polis and the Red Line teetered on the edge of collapse, as both sides vied for control over the newly discovered resources. The tension was palpable, with every word spoken carrying the weight of potential conflict or alliance. The encounter with the Black Ones left a haunting imprint on Artyom's psyche. He wrestled with nightmares, each more vivid than the last, portraying a world where shadows reigned supreme. Yet, in the waking hours, hope flickered as he and his companions began to understand the Black Ones, not as mere monsters, but as beings with their own history, and perhaps their own fears. Curiosity, once a driving force for survival, now presented a moral quandary. The discovery of the device compelled Artyom to choose between the safety of ignorance and the perilous allure of knowledge. This dilemma tested the very fabric of his values, as he grappled with the potential consequences of unveiling truths that might alter the fate of the metro forever. Amidst these unfolding events, a subplot emerged, connecting the present to the echoes of the past. Hidden within the depths of the metro, records were unearthed, revealing tales of the early days of the survivors' settlement. These memories, etched in the remnants of a bygone era, offered a glimpse into the resilience and ingenuity of those who first called the tunnels home. Betrayal and enlightenment. Artyom's breaths were shallow, his heart racing as he followed Bourbon through the dimly lit tunnels of the Moscow metro. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and the distant echoes of dripping water. They were on their way to Polis, the heart of the metro, but the path was fraught with peril. "Keep your eyes open, Artyom," Bourbon whispered, his voice barely audible over the sound of their cautious steps. "The tunnels are treacherous, and not all dangers are visible." Artyom nodded, gripping his makeshift weapon tightly. He had learned to trust Bourbon's instincts. As they turned a corner, they were greeted not by a flickering light, but by the sound of a soft melody playing in the distance. It was an unexpected sign of life, a stark contrast to the usual silence of the tunnels. Approaching the source, they discovered a lone musician, his fingers dancing over the strings of a battered guitar. The melody was haunting, echoing off the walls of the metro, and the travelers gathered around him were entranced. "It's me, Bourbon," he announced, stepping into the circle of light cast by a nearby lantern. "And this is Artyom." The musician nodded, his tune never faltering, as the travelers eyed them with a mix of curiosity and caution. Bourbon didn't waste time with pleasantries. Instead, he offered a trade of supplies for information about the path ahead. As they exchanged goods, a dispute broke out among the travelers. Accusations flew, not at Bourbon, but within their own ranks. A map had gone missing and suspicion was rampant. Artyom watched as Bourbon skillfully navigated the tension, offering to help mediate the conflict. The resolution came not from Khan, but from Artyom himself, who suggested a search that quickly uncovered the map, tucked away in a forgotten corner. The travelers' gratitude was palpable, and Artyom felt a surge of pride. He had contributed more than just muscle to their survival. He had offered wisdom. As they resumed their journey, Artyom reflected on the encounter. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about the connections they formed, the moments of humanity that shone through the darkness. He was learning that even in the depths of the metro, there was room for more than just fear and suspicion. There was room for music, for camaraderie, and for hope. Khan's guidance. Artyom's breath fogged in the chill air of the metro tunnel as he followed Khan's steady pace. The dim light from the batteryless flashlight in Khan's hand cast eerie shadows on the walls, yet Artyom felt a sense of security with his companion. "You see, Artyom," Khan began, "this place has its own way of speaking to us." Artyom glanced at the older man, skepticism on his face. "How can a place speak?" Khan's chuckle echoed slightly. "Through the drafts, the echoes of our footsteps and the silence. It guides us, if we know how to listen." They walked on, the tunnel enveloping them in its embrace. Artyom's heart raced with the thrill of the unknown, but he trusted Khan's guidance implicitly. Together, they continued their journey through the metro, each step taking them closer to their destination, guided by the wisdom of their surroundings and the steady hand of Khan. The brutal metro. In the dimly lit metro tunnel, Artyom moved with purpose, the chill of the underground a stark contrast to the warmth of the camaraderie among his companions. "Artyom, you seem preoccupied," Pyotr observed, matching his stride. "Is it the red line situation?" With a nod, Artyom's gaze remained fixed on the enveloping darkness. "The signs are clear. They're mobilizing for something significant, and it puts us all at risk." Andrei, the youngest of the trio, joined the conversation with a somber tone. "The tales of the Black Ones have been circulating for a while. Are they to be believed?" Before he could respond, a distant howl reverberated through the tunnels, hastening their steps. Approaching a makeshift barricade, they were halted by a wary guard. "State your purpose," he demanded. "We bear urgent news for the next station," Artyom declared, his voice unwavering. After a tense moment, the guard permitted their passage. As they continued, Andrei's voice broke the silence. "Do you think there's an end to these struggles, Artyom?" Pausing briefly, Artyom replied, "I ponder that often, but survival is our immediate concern." Their exchange was interrupted when they stumbled upon a group of survivors, terror etched into their faces. "What transpired?" Pyotr inquired, his hand ready at his side. A survivor spoke of an ambush by the Black Ones, confirming the fears that had been whispered among the stations. Artyom's resolve hardened. We must reach Polis. They must be informed and Hunter will have a plan. With a shared sense of urgency, they set off towards Polis, their determination cutting through the metro's oppressive gloom. The path ahead promised danger, yet their will to protect their home fueled their onward march. As they vanished into the tunnel's depths, the silence spoke volumes of the perilous world they navigated. Revolution and redemption. Artyom was overwhelmed by the weight of false accusations as he was led through the metro's shadowy passageways. The charges against him, a concoction of espionage and betrayal, gnawed at his conscience, challenging his integrity. Despite the absence of any real conspiracy, he was condemned, his loyalty questioned. The coldness of the interrogation space was less about the temperature and more about the chilling realization of his predicament. The relentless questioning tested his fortitude, pushing him to the brink of confession for crimes he never committed, all in a desperate bid to cling to life. Time seemed to stretch endlessly as Artyom grappled with the agony of his situation. The prospect of yielding to their demands tempted him in his darkest hour, yet he held on to a stubborn resistance, a refusal to let his spirit be crushed. The so-called trial was nothing more than a mockery, its outcome a foregone conclusion in the oppressive regime of the Metro. The announcement of his execution was met with an eerie dispassion, a testament to the desensitized nature of the onlookers. In an unexpected turn of events, as Artyom faced his bleak fate, a band of revolutionaries stormed in, their collective outcry piercing the despair. These fighters, driven by a common cause rather than individual recognition, saw in Artyom not a foe but a comrade in arms. Rescued from the clutches of doom, Artyom's perspective shifted. The harsh lessons of the Metro's depths now served a greater purpose. His path was no longer just about survival. It was about defiance against tyranny. As Artyom joined the ranks of the revolutionaries, he embraced their shared mission. Together they embarked on a journey marked by resilience and determination, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For Artyom, surrender was not an option. His resolve was unyielding, fueled by a newfound sense of duty and the will to persevere in the face of adversity. The spiritual path. Artyom's footsteps echoed in the dimly lit tunnel as he approached the secluded chamber where the spiritual community gathered. The soft glow of candles flickered against the walls, casting long shadows that danced to an unheard rhythm. Brother Timofey and Brother Ivan stood at the center, their faces serene, eyes closed in prayer. "Welcome, Artyom." Brother Iovan's voice broke the silence, warm and inviting. "We've been expecting you." Artyom hesitated at the threshold, the weight of his mission pressing heavily on his shoulders. "I come with a message," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. Brother Timofey opened his eyes, a gentle smile gracing his lips. "The truth often arrives in whispers. Share with us, young seeker." Artyom took a deep breath, the words of Melnik echoing in his mind. "It's about the true faith," he said, "and the dangers of spiritual blindness. We must open our eyes and turn away from the deceptions that have led us astray." The brothers nodded, their expressions unchanging. "Indeed, Artyom. The path to enlightenment is fraught with obstacles, but we will find our way," Brother Ivan replied. Artyom's gaze drifted to the other members of the community, their faces a tapestry of hope and conviction. "But how can we be sure of our path?" he asked. Brother Timofey stepped forward, placing a reassuring hand on Artyom's shoulder. "Faith is the compass that points to the divine. It is not seen but felt, and it is stronger than any doubt." A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber, and Artyom felt a sense of belonging envelop him. "And what of the observers?" he inquired, curiosity piqued by the tales he'd heard. "They watch over us, Artyom," Brother Ivan explained. "They are the remnants of a past age, waiting for us to reconcile with the wisdom they hold before they reveal themselves." Artyom pondered the words, the concept of unseen protectors, both comforting and mysterious. "Then I will carry this message to Melnik," he declared, "that we may all find our way to a brighter future." The brothers smiled, their faith unshakable. "Go with our blessings, Artyom. May your path be illuminated with truth and bring peace to the Metro." As Artyom turned to leave, the candlelight flickered once more, casting a warm glow on his determined face. He stepped back into the shadows of the tunnel, his heart lighter, carrying with him the promise of a brighter future for all who dwelled in the depths of the Metro. The Great Library Quest. Artyom, Melnik, and Danila entered the Great Library, a silent monument to the world before. "Beware the bibliothecaire," Melnik cautioned, referring to the once human guardians of the library's secrets, now transformed by the cataclysm into something else entirely. As they ventured deeper, the silence was shattered by a sudden crash. A barricade of books had been erected, and behind it, a figure lurked, its presence felt rather than seen. "The bibliothecar," Melnik said, his voice steady despite the danger. "Remember, they were once like us." Ignoring the creature, Artyom was drawn to a particular shelf where a book called to him, the Old Foliant, a tome rumored to hold truths about the world before and perhaps clues to his own shrouded past. As he retrieved the book, a photograph slipped from between its pages. It depicted a woman and a boy with eyes mirroring Artyom's. "Mama," he uttered, the connection dawning on him. This was his mother, and the boy, himself, a link to a life forgotten. Melnik urged him onward. "We have what we came for." With the book and photograph in hand, they retreated, leaving the bibliothecar behind, a silent sentinel of the past. Outside, the Metro's embrace was a stark contrast to the library's stillness. Artyom clutched the photograph, a tangible piece of history, and with it, the determination to uncover his identity and defend his home. The library had been a trial, but their journey was far from its end. They had triumphed over the Great Library, a significant first step in Artyom's quest for self-discovery. The final stand. Artyom stood in the dimly lit control room, his hand poised above the missile launch button. The Dark Ones, a mysterious force that had long threatened the Metro's existence, were about to face humanity's last stand. Melnik, his mentor, understood the gravity of the moment. "Artyom, this is it," he said softly. Artyom's thoughts flashed back to the countless times he'd traversed the Metro's tunnels, each step shaping him into the leader he had become. He remembered the faces of those he'd lost, the sacrifices made, and the lessons learned from the diverse souls he'd encountered. These memories solidified his resolve. "I'm ready," Artyom affirmed. With a resolute press, the missiles launched, piercing the sky towards the Dark One's lair. The control room buzzed with tension, but Artyom felt an unexpected calm. He wasn't just fulfilling a prophecy, he was acting on a deeply personal conviction shaped by his harrowing journey. As the missiles struck, a brilliant light shattered the darkness. The threat was neutralized, but the Metro bore the scars of conflict. Emerging from the control room, Artyom saw the cost of peace etched into the station's damaged walls and the weary eyes of survivors. Yet, there was hope amidst the rubble. Artyom and his companions began the arduous task of rebuilding, their spirits buoyed by the promise of a future free from the shadow of the Dark Ones. This victory was not an end, but a new beginning, a chance to forge a path towards coexistence and light. Artyom knew the road ahead was long, but for the first time it was one they chose for themselves. The final stand had indeed ushered in a new chapter for the Metro and its people.